Hey ghouls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today's vlog is going to be my October Buzzword reading challenge vlog. This is a series of challenges created by Kayla over at Books and Lala. I will leave her information down below. There are 2 challenges every single month this year, and one of them always involves the cover of the book, and then one of them always involves the title. So I'm just gonna be honest, I have fallen behind this challenge. I was doing really good until the end of this summer, so I'm hoping to just jump in and read some books to meet the October challenges. I do have 2 books that are already on my October TBR that I do think will work great for this Buzzword reading challenge. So we're gonna try and get back on a track with this challenge. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce the books. So the first challenge is the title challenge, and for October that is read a book that has a title that has a violent word within it. So I decided for this one I'm going to be reading The Possession of Alba, Díaz by Isabel Cañas. I feel like it's a little bit of a stretch because obviously the word possession doesn't always mean the possession of the demonic variety, but in this horror novel it absolutely does mean that. So if you've read any possession horror books, watched any possession horror movies like The Exorcist, you know that possession is a very violent act and it's a lot on the human body and psyche. So I think possession works really well there for a violent title for this vlog. And then the other book that I'm going to be reading is for the cover challenge. And the cover challenge is read a book with a weapon on the cover. And for that one, I'm going with Feeders by Matt Serafini. And this one has a little emoji of a knife on the cover. This is a horror book, and I think Matt Serafini kind of toes the line between horror and extreme horror. So I think this should be a really dark and gruesome time. It's about social media and the dark web and a series of challenges that our main character does on the dark web. So that's our cover challenge here. I am going to be starting off this vlog with reading The Possession of Alba Díaz. I am so excited to get to this one. I have read and loved everything by this author in the past. This is one of my most anticipated horror releases of the year. I love a good possession story, and I've just been hearing great things about this book. So I'm going to go ahead, dive into my violent title book for this challenge, and I will check back in later with a reading update. So I am currently about 40% of the way through The Possession of Alba Díaz, and I am really liking this one so far. It's definitely a slower paced, more on the Gothic side of horror, and I really like that. I've been reading a lot of faster paced, kind of very action heavy and intense books recently, and I really like this one for an opportunity to slow down and really add to that creep factor, add to the ambiance and building up the characters, because Isabel Cañas does a great job of having horror central to her story, but also builds in these romances that just really work within the horror. I don't know what it is about this author's writing, because I am not normally a romance reader, but something about this blend just really works for me, and I think that's in large part due to the characterizations of her main characters, really building up both of the main characters that are going to be involved in this romance. And her books really do feel like books where the romance is great and it really builds on the story, but it never sacrifices those really horrific moments for romance, if that makes sense. So I really am enjoying this one so far. It's definitely got such a heavy, oppressive atmosphere, and at 40% of the way through, we don't have any very like balls to the wall possession scenes yet, but we're starting to get hints. We're starting to get a slow moving sense of dread that something is just terribly wrong, and I love that. I love the feeling that this book invokes. It definitely gives the feeling of goosebumps, or you know, a little prickle along the back of your spine where you can feel like someone is watching you. These situations that these characters have already been in have been very creepy, very off-putting, and I just know that it's going to ramp up from here which is pretty exciting. So this book takes place in 1765 Mexico, and a plague has just sprouted up in the town where Alba Díaz and her family live. So they pack up everything in a hurry and flee to the countryside to try and avoid one of the big central cities where this plague is spreading like wildfire. Now, the place that they choose to go is this mining town, this really small mining town where Alba Díaz's new fiance has a family silver mine. This is a pretty tense situation because of the plague and because of the new isolation this new family has found themselves in. However, it is also a little uncomfortable because Alba and her fiance, Carlos, they don't really want to be married, but they don't not want to be married either. They were childhood friends and neither of them wants to get married, but they realize because of the times that maybe getting married to each other is the best option, Alba, so she can continue on kind of with her own agency and being single, because Carlos doesn't want her as a wife, and then Carlos's family has a lot of debts, some of them actually being owed to Alba's family, so they think if they get married that will solve Carlos's problem of the debts. It will also solve his problem where he doesn't want to get married, but if you have to get married, you get married to a friend. And so they think this is a pretty good situation, but obviously this is a very new situation. And then when Alba and her family moves to this very rural mining area, and it's not like quite like a mining town, but we do have like the hacienda and then the mine and then also the workers like living on the premises as well. So very isolated, not as fancy as Alba's family is used to. So there's all these like familial resentments kind of simmering immediately when they get there. Now Alba takes a trip to the mine. She visits inside of it, wants to see like what her new life will be like, what Carlos's work is like, and she experiences something very strange in this mine. And once she does that, she starts feeling a sense of dread. She starts feeling like the town doesn't want her there, the townspeople don't want her there, and she starts getting a ramp up of different afflictions, some that she's had since she was a small child, like sleepwalking, but that keep ramping up and just getting more sinister as time moves on. Now we also have Elias, and he is staying at this location as well. He is Carlos's estranged cousin. He comes from the old world. He has a lot of different family secrets. He's the black sheep of the family for a lot of reasons, does not get along with his cousin. His cousin warns Alba to stay away from him, and he's there at the mine for a lot of his own reasons. But as Alba's condition and the things that are plaguing her start getting worse and worse, and they kind of strike up an uneasy friendship, Elias starts to worry about her health and also think potentially he might be able to save her in some kind of way from the afflictions that are happening to her. So I'm definitely enjoying this one. 40% of the way in, I think things are going to really start ramping up in earnest. We're really going to start to see this possession happening, and at this point in time I am really intrigued to kind of see where this story goes and see what portrayal of possession this is going to be like, because I have a feeling from this author's other works that it's not going to be a question of whether or not Alba is actually possessed or if there's a more mundane explanation for her behavior. I think it's going to have to deal with her actually being possessed. We're not going to question that, but more so questioning how she got possessed and what exactly sort of spirituality or religion that this is coming from. Because another aspect that I like is we're also seeing quite a clash between Christianity and the Christian ideals and the church, what the church is saying during this time, and then some of the locals seem to have superstitions and beliefs of their own that are very different than that. So because those two things have already been introduced, I think it'll be less of a question of is this woman possessed, but what is she possessed by exactly? So definitely having a great time with this one. I'm going to keep reading, and I will check back in later with another reading update. So I finished The Possession of Alba Díaz, and I really enjoyed this one. I still think my favorite Isabel Cañas is The Hacienda, but I think this one definitely hits that second place spot, and then Vampires of El Norte is my least favorite, which I don't like using that term because I still really enjoyed that book. So this author is now 3 for 3 for me, and I really loved the blend of Gothic horror, Gothic romance in here. I also loved getting a historical snapshot of this era in history and this location in history. I feel like even though I am someone, I have a degree in history, it is an area that I have a little bit of a blind spot in, and I really love the extensive research that goes into this author's work. So I found it so fascinating. There were definitely a lot of scenes that if you just love a classic possession horror movie or horror book, there are definitely some beats that you'll expect with the whole possession process, and I think it works perfectly for this prompt because it is a very violent business. I think as an author, Isabel Cañas definitely captures something so special because I love her work, and I even mentioned at the beginning of this, I am not usually one for romance. I'm not usually one for romance-centered pretty much anything, and all of her books have worked really well for me, but I'm just going to use a very small sample size of my immediate family. I love these books. I love this author. My mom has read a couple of Isabel Cañas books, and she really enjoys them as well, despite not really reading any romance. She's kind of like me in that aspect. She does get into a little bit of horror, some thriller, and she really loved it. And then an example of a completely different reader from the two of us, my brother, who is in his early 20s. He's a graduate of the Coast Guard Academy. He's actually trying to get more into reading fiction, but he doesn't read romance. He self-proclaims that he does not like horror, and he doesn't read a lot of romance, but he really loves this author as well. Like, we've all tried out her books, and we're very different readers. So there's just such a special thing about an author that has such a wide appeal when you can get people to read this book, her books, even if they don't typically read the subgenres, even if they aren't big readers at all. Not to like bash my brother or anything, he's trying to get more into reading as an adult, which is great. He reads more like epic fantasy, and he really loved these as well. So I think just from that small sample size, these books have very wide appeal, and I did really enjoy this one. So first book of this vlog was a success. Moving on to the second book, this is for the cover prompt where you have to read a book with weapons on the cover, and I am going with feeders. It's got that little knife on the cover, the knife emoji. The synopsis for this one says, when a video depicting the brutal murder of a former classmate leaks online, Kylie's curiosity gets the better of her, leading to the discovery of an off-the-grid social media app called Monolife. Given that Kylie's dreams of becoming a successful influencer remain frustratingly elusive, this mystery app seems like just the ticket for online superstardom, but as it turns out, there are certain cryptic rules in the user agreement that must be adhered to. So interested in this one. I actually haven't heard a lot about it. I read my first at Serafini earlier this year and was pleasantly surprised, so I'm very curious to see what kind of dark webby time that this author has in store for me for this book. So I'm gonna go ahead, get to reading. I'll check back in later with a reading update. So I am currently about 30% of the way through Feeders, and I don't think I could have picked 2 more different horror books for this vlog if I would have tried, because The Possession of Alba Díaz was gothic horror. This one is social media, dark web. It's kind of veering a little bit on the extreme horror side. I don't think it's quite yet there, but I do feel like based on the trajectory, we could really get there. It feels very voyeuristic with its violence, and I think that's a very intentional choice by the author. Like, it feels gratuitous at times, but that feels intentional and a part of the commentary here. So we are following main character Kylie. She's 19 years old and she wants to be social media famous. I'll just say it right now. I think the #1 complaint from page 1 people are going to have is that she's very insufferable. She is such an insufferable and obnoxious, annoying main character. I think that's the point, but all she cares about is growing her social media presence and becoming famous. So she has her best friend, not really best friend, they don't really seem like they like each other, but her best friend is Instagram famous, has tens of thousands of followers. She only has 4,000, and she's constantly thinking throughout her day of what she can do to post and make her social media presence greater. Now, chapter 1 of this book, Kylie and her friend stumble across a video that's being circulated around their town of a classmate of theirs who went missing last year, and it turns out this video is a videotape of this classmate getting murdered, and Kylie cannot stop watching it. They don't know where this video came from. It doesn't seem to have originated from places like Instagram or TikTok or any of the well-known social media sites. So Kylie seeks to find out where this video came from, what social media site, and she does indeed find this site. This website is called Mono Life, and it's really designed for anyone to post anything and be as authentically, grotesquely themselves as they want. There's a bunch of horrifying content on here, but Kylie's super intrigued. She starts posting prank videos and they really start blowing up, and she realizes the meaner the pranks get, the meaner the content is on this social media platform, the more she blows up and gets this internet fame, and she cannot look away from it. So that's where we are, 30% of the way. Kylie is fully hooked onto this app, and the app has very serious rules. You can't tell anybody who doesn't have the app downloaded about the app, and you can't like share really any details of it and what you do on the app with other people to protect the other people on this site, which is very much dark web. Some of the videos that Kylie watches are very graphic, very brutal. So keep in mind for that. This definitely has a voyeuristic sort of dark web feel to it, and it's a lot. It's a lot, and I think Kylie is very intentionally obnoxious because she's very grating. She's very grating from page 1, but it's kind of clear, at least to me, that the aspects of her personality, the way that she is so focused on social media fame and social media fame alone, different aspects of her character throughout this are revealed, and you start to see like how sociopathic she is as a main character and what lengths she'll do to get fame. And I definitely think there's a commentary there about the way in which people ruthlessly chase internet fame, internet clout at the expense of other people. When I stopped, I just got to part 2, and something is being introduced that I think is going to shake this up a little bit. This book does take a while to get started, and I can definitely see why people are DNFing this book so early on. I've seen a lot of people DNF this one, and I totally get it because Kylie is a lot. She's a very vapid, very narcissistic, and very sociopathic main character, and I'm not using that lightly. It's kind of clear from the, maybe not chapter 1, but as things start to progress, you see that she really doesn't care about her family, doesn't care about her friends. It's just her and this app and getting famous and upping the ante to become famous. So I don't really know how I'm gonna feel about this book by the end. It's definitely not one where I'm enticed to, like, I'm not excited to read it. I'm not having a fun time reading it, but it does feel like the proverbial car accident where you can't look away even though you know you're not supposed to look at it. So yeah, I think those feelings are very intentional on the author's part, trying to capture that vibe of seeing something you're not supposed to and just really getting sucked into the story. So I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this one by the end, but I am going to keep reading, and I will check back in later with another reading update. So I finished Feeders, and this one ended up being just okay for me. I definitely see the social commentary in this one, and there were a lot of deliberate choices made by the author to make this just a very unsettling read, and I did really appreciate that. I will say this is just really random aside that you will not be prepared. If you pick this up, you will not be prepared for the amount of times that Katy Perry is mentioned in this book. Our main character has an obsession with Katy Perry. She loves her, and that's fine. That's a character trait. People obviously have their favorite pop stars, singers, celebrities, all of that, but the way that she would constantly talk about all of these references that you'd have to be a super fan to know. She would even constantly compare all of these situations to things that Katy Perry wore at a random event, or album titles, or comparing things to song lyrics, and it was a lot. And I'm not familiar with Katy Perry in that way, so a lot of it kind of got lost on me. I will say that aspect and some of the fashion commentary in here felt a little bit American Psycho, where we would have our main character thoroughly going over her skincare routine or the things that she was wearing, the designer she was wearing. So I think that commentary kind of was a little bit of the same there, but it wasn't like the most exciting portions of this book to read. And overall, I definitely think this book would have benefited had it been a whole lot shorter. Now, Rites of Extinction by this author is a very punchy novella that has no fat in it, and it works really well from beginning to end. It's a wild time, and I think this one could have benefited, and I'm saying that because I know Matt Serafini can do a very slick, a very horrifying and memorable short story or novella that'll stick with you for a while. I think this concept would have worked better in that form. This book is almost 400 pages, and I felt like the pacing, while it wasn't necessarily off or poorly paced, there were definitely portions that felt like they dragged a little bit longer. We'd have a period of time where nothing really happened, and then a very explosive event. It would slow down, keep going for a little bit, and then ramp up to an explosive event again. I feel like if this book would have just been a little slicker, a little shorter, that it would have been a lot more effective for me as a horror. So know going into this one that you are dealing with the dark side of social media and the social cannibalism of consuming people for content and just viewing other people as almost NPCs or influencers or other people just posting on the internet as not real people but online personas. And this does get very dark. From the synopsis, from pretty much the jump, you see where this is going, and it's hard to look away from. There's a lot in here. There is a lot of animal abuse, animal cruelty, and just a lot of very casual violence. Our main character really buys into this app a lot sooner than I think a lot, or hopefully most, other people would, and it's very fascinating to see that. And I do think that's another one of my little critiques about this book, is that I wanted our character, I wanted Kylie to have more of a struggle with this app and really fully buying into this app. But it seems like once she unlocks the secret to the app's success, she has no problem going along with things. I would have liked a little bit more of a struggle for her, and she's just a very deeply unlikable main character for a whole lot of reasons. And I do think if this were shorter, it wouldn't matter as much. So I do appreciate the ideas that were floated in here. I will say both this book and Rites of Extinction, I think Matt Serafini kind of really knocks out of the park. Just an absolutely explosive ending that you don't necessarily see coming. Even if you see like portions of it coming, you can't imagine how it will all come together, or rather all blow apart in the end. So I do really like that aspect of his work, and I thought this was a really interesting blend of, it feels very rooted in reality at times, it feels very dreamlike and paranormal at times. So I thought that was well done. I would have liked it a whole lot more if we had a different main character, but I don't think a different main character would have gone along with this entire plot. So I get that, and I just think it could have been a whole lot shorter. Overall, it was very gruesome. It's definitely something that's going to stick with me for a while. There are so many unsettling scenes in here that I I didn't love reading. I mean, I love reading horror, I love reading darker things, but there were definitely some scenes in here that just felt very, very unsettling to read. So overall, it was a pretty good reading vlog experience. I definitely liked the possession of Alba Díaz more. I just really liked the Gothic atmosphere, and I'm a sucker for a good possession story, but this book did really bring me out of my comfort zone. Again, I'm not the expert, so I don't know if this would necessarily be classed as extreme horror, but it's definitely towing the line between horror and extreme horror if it's not extreme horror. So got out of my comfort zone, and I'll definitely check out more by this author. I don't think this was like the most successful book for me, but I did enjoy Rites of Extinction, so I definitely think I will keep him on my radar. But that is going to be it for this reading vlog. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my content. Stay safe, stay spooky, happy Halloween, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!